Welcome back to Ye Old Foundry, ladies and gentlemen. But I say that, and I want to tell you that this isn't going to be about any foundry work. Now, why do I make this? Well, kind of making it for a neighbor that moved away and loves the habanero peppers. Okay. Now, this, ladies and gentlemen, is a habanero pepper. This is ripe, as is this. You can find it in either the red version or an orange version. Okay, up until recently I thought this was a non-ripe habanero, but apparently it's a ripe habanero, as is this. Okay, the green ones are the ones that aren't ripe. All right, now that's the habanero pepper. We know humans have known about this pepper as far back as 6500 BCE. What's BCE? BCE means before current era. Now, when I was growing up, whenever they tried to tell us how what age this thing happened and what age this thing happened, they had two scales to go by: AD and BC. Okay. The rumor was that AD was supposed to signify after the death of Christ, and BC was supposed to signify before the birth of Christ. No idea whether that was absolutely true or not. Okay, but that's what they told us when I was growing up. All right, the habanero pepper found in Peru by archaeologists was carbon dated by archaeologists by testing the peppers that they found in the ancient site. And that's where they got the 6500 BCE time frame. Okay. Later, this pepper was found in the Amazon by the Spanish conquistadors in their attempt to find treasure, and they brought it back to Mexico in North America, where it was grown and widely disseminated throughout the Spanish Empire. They loved the hotness of these peppers, as did most of our ancestors apparently. Landing on the Scoville scale, which tries to nail down the hotness of the pepper, landing on the Scoville scale between 100,000 and 350,000 Scovilles, the Guinness Book of World Records organization recognized the habanero pepper as the world's hottest pepper in 1999. Well, as we all know, the habanero pepper has since been surpassed by the ghost pepper and the Trinidad scorpion pepper as the hottest peppers. Anybody who's been on the internet and on social media has watched, gosh, I don't know how many videos that's been put out there by, I don't know. I myself would say idiots, but that would be insulting idiots. Okay. They try to just put a ghost pepper in their mouth and chew it, and for the next 15 minutes you're sitting there, watch them gag it up, and eyes are burning and eyes are water, and they're crying and hollering. There's even one fella that's, "Mama, Mama, help me, Mama." Okay, I suppose it's brave to just put it in your mouth, but after that, let's try to grow be adults and not cry for mama. Okay? Back to this. Why am I making this? Trying to make a detailed step-by-step process by which I utilize the habanero peppers in my day-to-day food consumption. I forgot to get something out. Let me show you. There we are. Okay? When everything is done and over with, the habanero will be ground down to about like this, into this this form, so that you can put it in any kind of shaker. Like you could buy. Here's a container that I have been using. You get these containers from stores that have different spices in them, and you wash them out and you save them, because you have a container that you can use to put the habanero pepper, ground up habanero peppers in it, and you have a shaker right there so you can lightly shake it on your food. Now, here's a few safety things. After I put these back up here, out of the way, remember, these were the hottest pepper in the world in 1999. That's not that long ago. So you got to realize that these didn't just get less hot, they just found better peppers to make the hottest pepper, okay? You have a oil in here. I think it's capsaicin or something of the sort. Capsaicin. Anyway, there's an oil in here that is what makes it hot for us human beings. Okay? You grab this, you chew it. The oil is throughout the flesh inside here and in the seeds from what I've read. And what's happening? Why are you crying around, because it's so hot? Well, it's not just hot, it's also the acid inside this oil that's eating up your flesh. It's getting on the ends of your nerves that and causing you pain, okay? So with that in mind, you should be very careful on how you handle these. First things first, you get yourself a pile of habanero peppers. Now, if you're brand new to this, you just want to just try it out, get yourself a pound or two, because this doesn't mean that you're going to get a pile of powder this big. You'd be lucky that a powder made from those would fill this up 3/4 of the way. Okay, this is reduced down to criminy about 1/4 of the amount of mass that you see here. You'll see this a little bit later. Anyway, so you're starting off. You just want to try it. Get yourself a pile of these. You can see them in the store. It looks like this. There's no other peppers that I know of that looks exactly like these. But look for habaneros, the listing, and it tells you a habanero. Now, I've seen habanero peppers in Walmart, in their big superstores. I've seen them in the Navy commissary. This is where my wife got this. I've seen them in the farmers markets. We have a farmers market here in Jacksonville, over on Beach Boulevard. And, so they're widely disseminated. They're all over the place. Of course, there's a season for these, so you're not necessarily going to have them all the time, year round. But you may not have to do that, not worry about that, okay? Because you're not going to use so much of this, you're going to run out of it real quick. A little bit will go a long way when it comes to making your food nice and spicy, all right? Now, you got your pile. Number one on the hit parade of things to do, take all the stems off, okay? Second, you need to chop all of these in half. Now, when I first started out, I thought that you'd have to like strip these down, almost like when you cut a bell pepper down into strips. You don't have to do that, because what you're going to be doing, once you cut these in half, you're going to put them on the trays of a not a dehumidifier. Well, it's a dryer, okay, food dryer. Dehydrator. It's a dehydrator, okay? You're going to need a dehydrator if you don't already have one to be able to do this. Dehydrators that's not the only thing that a dehydrator can do is make this dry, right? We've made beef jerky on the dehydrator. You take a banana, you peel it, and you chop it into slices. You can put it on this, and you'll have those banana chips that you can eat as a snack. Okay? There's lots of stuff you can do with a dehydrator, and but in this case, we're just talking about the habanero peppers. Okay? Now, I'm not real sure you can see well enough over there, so I'm going to bring you closer So, and I'm going to aim you so you can see a little better. Okay, it should be a little better. Now, you can chop these in half by using a standard knife and a chopping board. Or you can get one of these. Now, up until my wife got this, my wife got this. Up until that time, all I was using is a knife and cutting those in half. This is just another little gimmick that you find in the stores where the kitchen gimmicks are, or rather the kitchen toys are. But what it is, it's a sharp blade that comes down flat on this what feels like Teflon platform. And what you're doing is you're just taking this and doing that. So, I mean, the best thing to do is cut these long ways. Okay? You don't have to worry about getting rid of the seeds. The seeds are going to be added to the whole mixture, and they're part of the hotness. You know, if I didn't misread the article I read. So you don't want to get rid of any of the hotness. You want to keep it so that it adds to the mass and makes the powder last that much longer in your container, your shaker. Okay, so you cut these in half, and you continue to cut them in half until your tray is full. Now you've got to make sure that the tray is not so full that you can't put another tray on top. Me, when I make my amount of habanero pepper, I make it so that I've got, well, that full container that you just saw, okay? That full container, I transfer ever so often. I fill up the containers that I use as shakers, and it lasts a long time. That amount in there can last a year, you know, unless you are a real spicy eater and you use it up. Because the deal is, you don't need but to put a light dusting on your food for you to get the full effect of the hot pepper. It's great. I grew up in Sacramento Valley in California and was exposed to all this hot peppers by the Mexican population that was in Sacramento area. I would go over to the Roseville auction, which is basically a flea market, and farmers market, by the way. It was all one big thing. And I would go, there was a Mexican family that had a restaurant there that would, they make all the Mexican dishes like burritos and tacos and enchiladas and so forth and so on. And they, but out on the tables, they would have a container of, not jalapeno, it might have been this stuff. They, might have ground it up and put it in a liquid. It wasn't a powder. I've never seen anybody in any of the hot the stores that have spices, and any of the restaurants that love to have hot stuff for them, like Dick's Wings and all the, like we have one that's nearby, Extreme Wings. We have a thing that's nearby, and I always complain to them that, hey, this stuff ain't hot. You guys are giving me false advertisement. They have started getting a little hotter though. Either that or my tongue has decided to become as old as my real age of 65. Okay, so this is basically a filled up tray. You get the next tray, you make sure that it's seated, okay? It's all part of the actual function of this device. Continue filling it up. See, it hasn't been taking very long at all to do this. Okay, if it was taking quite some time, I would have just paused the camera and shown you what it looked like after it was done, but it doesn't take that long. Of course, depending on how many of these you have to do, all right? But anybody who loves hot peppers is going to love this process. And it isn't like you need to go out and buy $100 worth of gear, okay, or even worse. You don't have to go out there and buy a special processor or anything special at all. This is so simple a process that anyone in the United States of America and abroad can do this. It'll add that portion to your life that you like when you're eating hot food. You can do it all by yourself, and if you make a bunch of this powder, you can give it to your friends, your family. You can tell somebody in the restaurant business, hey, you know, I'll sell you some of this powder. I can even make it easy. And your customers would love it. I've never bothered doing that. That would require me doing more work, and the sand rammer doesn't like to do any more work than necessary unless it's in the foundry, and you can't get out of work there. What the heck we got on here? Another thing is, you don't have to be very picky about the state in which you find these peppers. They could be half rotted and it wouldn't make any difference, because the rottedness, not even sure that's a word, probably isn't. The state of the peppers when they're overly and they're pretty aged doesn't get rid of any of the hot capsin. I keep wanting to think capsin is the word. The oil that burns you. It doesn't get rid of anything, even despite the fact that it's old and kind of sloppy and mushy. Okay, because all you're basically going to be doing is drying this out to the point where it's nothing but a husk. Let's see if I can work these guys, make a little more room open for me. All right. Here we go, more. All right, so if you happen upon some of these peppers and some of them aren't in the best of shape, don't worry about them. Maybe you can get a discount from the farmer. He knows that those are just going to be throwaways anyway. Go ahead and ask him if, hey, this stuff is getting pretty rotten. How about a discount? He might be happy to get the money and not have to throw away the stuff he took so much time to grow. Almost done, only 2 more. Now this is a pile of them. I think my wife said she got like maybe 3 pounds worth. Okay. All right, they're all in place. Now, here's the dehydrator that I use. That's not the one I've used all my life. We have another one, an older one, in my storage room. Now, let's make sure that we can see. Okay, now how these work. You've already seen that you put stuff on the trays, okay? What it does is, here we have this unit is on top. My old unit, the part that got heated up and had the fan in it, was down on the bottom, so that it just blew the moisture out of the stuff up through the top, and it disseminated throughout whatever room it was in. In this case, what we have, let me make double sure of what I'm talking about. It looks like this will draw air through the, yeah, we have 2 slots right here, and we'll push it out. Perhaps, yep, here's some, what appears to be exit ports. It's not very loud. In this case, we have a scale from 95 degrees Fahrenheit or 35 degrees centigrade all the way up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees centigrade. Okay? On the thing up here, it tells you at such and such a temperature you can dry out jerky, meats, fish, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, herbs and spices. And fruits and vegetables, this is the vegetable, says that you can go to 135 degrees. I will go up to 135 degrees. Yeah, it's coming up. It's drawing in through here on both sides, heating everything, heating up the, there's a heater in here. Air is sucked in and pushed down through the mass and coming out. Yeah, it's getting hot now. Coming out through these vents in the bottom. There's a vent here, the vent here, and a vent here. So on the thirds, you have vents that exhaust. Now, I'm going to stop that because this is a pungent pepper. You dry this stuff out, the moisture that comes out of this will also have some of the scent of the pepper. Okay? If you're sensitive to that kind of thing, which my wife is, and I'm not particularly thrilled with having the whole house smell like peppers either, you want to take this someplace where you're not going to get bothered by the house being filled up with that scent. Okay? So where this is going in my house is out into the garage where we have all the foundry stuff. Right? Now, before I take this out there, put it on the in the heat and turn this on, there's a couple of safety things I want to tell you about. You can easily get this hot ass oil all over your fingers. If you get it on your fingers, you know, you're going to forget about it, okay? Because it doesn't burn your hands. You got thicker skin out here and tougher skin that's set up for abrasion and work and all that stuff. So a little bit of the acid that you have on your fingers isn't going to feel like you got anything on it. So you're going to forget about it until the first time. You have to do one of two things. One, you have to rub your eye. You're going to find out real quick that you have oil on your fingers and that you've just rubbed it into your eye. It's a very, very hard thing to, get that out of your eyes. Okay, you wind up, if you have a flush eye flush station somewhere, you might be able to speed things along that way, but you usually wind up just sitting there being agonized and waiting. Eventually goes away itself. It doesn't eat through your cornea and turn you blind, insofar as I know. Okay, I've got it in my eyes and it's rotten. It's really bad for you. All right. Let me go to number two, and this can in some cases be even worse. You got the hot oil. I'm gonna have to not say that so much anymore. You got to have the hot oil. You're going to have the hot oil on your fingers, and whether you're a guy or a gal, if you don't know they're on your fingers and you got to go to the bathroom, you're going to touch things that ain't going to be very happy about having hot acid put on your fingers. Okay? The women, you know how sensitive things are. You're going to touch things that are sensitive down there. You're just gonna have to sit through it. The guys ain't no better. Okay? We've got different types of problems down there than the ladies do. But let me tell you, if you're a guy and you have to handle your junk with acid on your fingers, You're just going to regret it. How to solve this? Wash your hands. Okay? It's an oil. You go to the sink. You get some of the, the dishwasher liquid or even just a bar of soap, and you wash it. Okay? That'll solve it. Okay? You will preeminently save yourself a lot of hate, a lot of heat, and pain if you simply wash your hands. Okay? So, I'm going to take this out to the garage and get it going. Now, on average, it usually takes overnight for it to be done. I'll bring you back when this is done, and then we'll continue on from that point. Be back in a bit. Welcome back. It's now the next morning. Okay, 24 hours ago, I was first speaking to you about how to, prep the habanero peppers and a little bit of history about the peppers and so forth. And now the peppers have been drying for overnight. Okay, and I got up this morning and checked them, and they were all ready to go. They were all dry as a husk in a desert. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you over a little closer so you can see and probably hear how I test these peppers. Let's see if I can get you at an angle. There's the peppers, all nice and shriveled up like a raisin in the sun. Okay, now they can look like this, but they can still be a little bit flexible if you haven't dehydrated them as much as they should have been. Here's the way to test and see if they're ready for processing. You take one, you see if you can crush it in your fingers. That is ready. So the rest of them are going to be ready. Okay. So now the next process, the next thing to do, see if I can get you back like that. The next thing to do is to turn these into dust. Okay, the reason why I say dust and not granules is because you don't want to have a bunch of granules where you can have dust. Dust is a little less of the heat than granules. Okay. Keep in mind, this was the hottest pepper known to man around the world in 1999. That was 20 years ago, and that's it. Okay, in human history, that's not even an intake of your breath in human history. All right, so these are still going to be really hot. Now, how do you turn these into dust? Well, you can get yourself a regular old blender with the blades at the bottom, and they'll turn, and each time it hits something more solid than dust, it'll break it up. You can get what I used to do is I used to crush these up a little bit and put them through my coffee grinder. Okay, that did a real good job on turning it into a dust. Okay, but I found that I was going to do a little bit faster job if I just got a food processor. In this case, the food processor is a KitchenAid. No, I'm not being paid to, sponsor, or they're not sponsoring me or anything like that, but this is just my own favorite device to use. Got a KitchenAid, off, low, high, pulse. But the key to this is that it's got some nice big, really sharp blades in it. And the blades, the bottom blade is only this far above the base of this container. So as this whirls around at a high speed, it's absolutely tearing all this stuff up and is going to turn into the dust and the form that you would like to have inside a a container like this. Okay, or you can go to the stores. Yeah, Walmart has a bunch of these and they're very inexpensive, with a little bit bigger holes so that you can dust it all on your food that way. Now when I say dust, I do mean dust, and I don't mean cover your food in dust. You're going to have to figure out a way, like through experimentation, to see exactly how much of this material the habanero powder you could put on your food before you ruin your food. You're going to put too much on someday or somehow, and you're going to find out, hey, that's way too much. I got to dial back the amount that I'm putting on my food, because you will ruin your food if you put too much of this stuff on there. You're going to be thinking less, oh, this is nice, and oh, this is ruined, because you won't be able to eat it. People can't afford to ruin their food on a daily basis. So I advise you, barely put some on top of your food. Just tap it on and then test it out. You'll find that the smallest amounts of that material will give you the desired result. Nice and spicy. Okay? Now, another warning. This stuff is hot. I stay on that premise. This stuff is hot. You put it in your tongue, it'll be burned nice and hot. Okay. Now, what do you think would happen if you, for instance, if there wasn't a safety mechanism in here to keep this from moving, to keep this from turning, if this lid wasn't in place, and when you were grinding it, the dust gets into the air and goes, well, like a dirty bomb. Okay? Well, the problem is now you're going to have dust that you can inhale. Okay? Not only you might have dust on here, you rub it and then forget to wash your hands, and you go, and now that dust is in your eyes. Okay? Before, it might have been the liquid oil got in there and stayed for a while. The dust burns you just as bad. So don't get it on you. Okay? But the next step is, I found out, I didn't realize this was going to happen. I found out that when you're grinding this stuff is not sealed perfectly. Some of that dust comes out into the atmosphere. I only realized that when I started having a bad coffin jag in here. I smelled it in the air. I said, okay, that's nice. You know, it was no big deal for me. But suddenly, every breath I took, I apparently was inhaling invisible invisible dust that's in the air. You couldn't see it. And it was burning the inside of my lungs, or on the inside of my esophagus. How do we stop you from having that happen? Well, it turns out these work real well. Okay? All you got to do is just keep the dust from getting inside your breathing tubes. Inside your nostrils, inside your mouth, if you happen to breathe with your mouth open. All you got to do is just have that happen, okay? This works perfectly. I don't even smell the scent that these peppers put out, okay? So, I was about to say, you can get those paper, dust covers that you can get in any Harbor Freight or Walmart or Home Depot or any of those white paper dust protectors that's got that one little, you know, band-aid, rather a rubber band that goes around the back of your head, and you know it cups up against your face. That works just as well. Okay, the idea, pardon me, the idea is to keep that stuff from getting into your lungs. Okay, if you have a place like this is my principal food preparation place. If you have a place like this where you prepare your food almost most of the time, wipe it down. Okay, you're not going to see anything. It's not going to cover your food top or work preparation place. Like you're not going to really go like this and you'll see marks on your thing. But you realize that if you're breathing it in, it's going to be landing nearby. Okay, and just a little bit of this will burn your eyes and other things. So take preparations. Just keep yourself from breathing this stuff in, and wash your hands after everything's done. You know. All right, let's see. I got to get this thing on. Now, once I put this on, I won't be able to speak to you. They put this on wrong. I won't be able to speak, okay, and explain what's going on, but I think it's going to be pretty obvious. All I'm going to be doing is grinding it into a form that I can then shake out of a shaker and put it on my food, okay? So, all you guys in the Navy are going to recognize this process.
What I'm doing there is when you put one of these on and you've got capsules, I hope you hear me, but if you've got these capsules on the side, what you have to make certain is that you've got a good seal all around. If you cover the openings of these filters and inhale, if you get any air in around there, you got to clean the surface or shave or whatever the case might be. But right now I've got a real good seal, and I'm not going to get any of this pepper inside my body or inside my breathing tubes. Okay, that's pretty good grind. Even the biggest granules in here are smaller than the pieces you see on the ground red pepper containers. Okay. You can probably see the dust on the inside there because it gets past this seal here. That's the dust I'm talking about that gets into the air. It's microfine. It's very, 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 very fine.
Okay, well, thanks for hanging in. That's the end of it. I now have a container that I can use to spicing up any and all types of foods that I like. I have, when I have a steak, I'll put some barbecue sauce on top, put this on top of it very lightly. Almost you can't see it. And it makes that stuff hot. I'll put it on chicken. I'll put it on I'll put it in soup or chili. Still got stuff in the air. Pardon me. And that's what happens when you still have stuff. I can't even smell it now. I can't smell the habanero smell, but still there's stuff in the air making me sneeze. So now when it comes to adding this to a soup or a stew or anything like that, any kind of a liquid that you want to just give it some heat, experiment, okay? Don't put half a cup in a big container. That half a cup is going to be enough to maybe ruin your food. That's how strong this stuff is. Put a tablespoon in, stir it up, let it sit for a minute, and then test it. Okay? Continue that way until you get to the point where that's, if it gets any hotter, it'll be a bad thing. Okay? So, I'm sorry to you folks that might have tuned into this to get more foundry information. I do have stuff planned ahead. I've more, the stuff that you've seen so far is basically all the basic stuff that I was taught. Okay, the stuff past this is going to be a little more advanced. Now, when I say a little more advanced, I do mean just a little more advanced. Okay, for instance, the one film that I'm, video that I'm considering is to explain to everybody out there who watches this the difference between gunmetal bronze, leaded tin bronze. I'm mixing terms up. Tin bronze, leaded tin bronze, and high leaded tin bronze. Those are three of the main bronzes that we used in the Navy for particular things. Okay, leaded tin bronze is also known as gunmetal bronze. Gunmetal bronze is called gunmetal bronze because that's the bronze they used to make the big bronze cannons in the 1600s. Okay, of course, when I give you a formula or what might be considered a recipe by a chef, everybody's got their own little additions and retractions from recipes, or rather formulas like that. Okay, but these will be the recipes and formulas that we used while in the Navy. Okay, we would buy this stuff from the standard stock system, and they would buy it from a foundry out in the United States that would make the stuff for us, and we would use that to make things like watertight door closers, which were called dogs. We might make tin bronze, or that's the gunmetal bronze, would be for general purpose castings like the door closer. Leaded tin bronze, you use it in valves. Okay, that's the other like for tin bronze called gunmetal. Leaded tin bronze is called valve bronze. High leaded tin bronze, which would be used to on pump bodies, for instance, where there's a lot more pressure than in a valve. That's called hydraulic bronze. Doesn't take much imagination to figure out why they would call that because it prevents the the high pressure from pushing water through the grains of the the walls of the pump body to leak on the outside. You can have a perfectly good pump body, no cracks in it, no defects in it, but you'll see water coming through the walls, not in a stream, but more like just bleeding through, because somebody used the wrong metal to make that valve, pump body. Okay, and that's a video that I intend on making in the near future. All right, so what you'll get out of that is the understanding of what happens when metals solidify, and the defects that can happen under different types of jobs if you don't compensate for those problems that come up. That's what's happening in the future, okay? So I hope everybody that loves hot stuff can make use of this video. And it's so simple, isn't it? All you got to do is get the habanero peppers, dry them out, grind them up, put them in a container that you can use just to, sprinkle on your food. So simple. And you don't add nothing to it, okay? Well, I hope I remembered everything, all the different little safety things that safety procedures that I discovered I needed to, adhere to in this process, okay? Because otherwise you're going to feel pain, and you don't want that. You just want nice, spicy food, okay? And with that, I say Liberty Call. Good night. If you liked, if you like any of my videos, by the way, please, like it and spread the word. Have your friends, subscribe to it. Please remember that if you're going to be watching any of the Foundry videos, start with number 1 and work your way this way, okay? Because I purposefully made the videos with the most basic information being told to you guys first, and then I became just a little more sophisticated, just a little more, a little harder on the information, until basically I just told you how to make a bell. It's very important. And my light went off. One moment. Turn on. Thank you. It's very important that you start from the beginning and work your way to the end of the series, because you'll miss a portion of the trade that you would have been taught as an apprentice, or in the Navy you would have been taught going through A school. Don't even know if A schools exist anymore in the Navy. Hopefully, now that our commander-in-chief has given the Navy a lot more money, the Navy, in its infinite wisdom, will go back to putting people through training, and maybe even start bringing more repair ships, destroyer tenders, sub-tenders, actual repair ships back into the fleet. I think they will find out that they're a little more helpful than just relying on civilians out in subland or packland. No, subland, Atlantic Fleet or the Pacific Fleet, or any other commands that might be around. Okay? Liberty Call, and see you later.